Hello folks, this is Audiotron 1003 and this is another crystal video, part of my little series I've decided to do. This time these are potassium dichromate or bichromate crystals. I grew many of these maybe 20-30 years ago. Unlike the previous video where the chemical was highly toxic and I only happened to get my hands on it because I was in a factory, this I was able to get my hands on because I knew a chemist who happened to get me some of the powdered chemical, and I was able to grow it. Now this is potassium dichromate as opposed to potassium ferric cyanide. It's still a poisonous chemical if you ingest this thing, but I don't think it's as bad as the other chemical. And the main reason for me buying this was I was forever looking for red crystals because in my collection I didn't really have many. It was spurred on mainly by the fact I fell in love with red garnets I saw in books and other such crystals, but could never really find any in my youth, so I decided to grow some instead. Now these crystals have a tendency to grow in sort of tablet form, so they're sort of very tabular. So for example they tend to grow quite thin and square like. I think that's 2 or 3 trying to grow at once, but I never really let them grow too big because I got impatient, and when they were big enough for me to handle I used to take them out of the solution and varnish them. These are thickly varnished just like the other crystals I showed in the last video. In fact, all the crystals that I've grown over the years, they've all been thickly varnished to protect them from dissolving in the house atmosphere, humidity, etc. And in the case of the more toxic chemicals, to protect me. But I'm not so afraid of this chemical as I am of, say, the potassium ferric cyanide. The way I grew these was similar to the last crystals. I would put them in the solutions I should say, in small shallow containers, such as the top caps of vending machine hot drinks cups, because when they came as a tube they would have this cap to stop the tea or coffee or whatever from spilling out, and I used to use those to grow the crystals, and I would top them up with some solution, stick them in this case in the airing cupboard, and let the dryness and the heat sort of evaporate the chemical, turning them over from time to time, and then when they got big enough take them out. Just like the previous chemical, potassium ferric cyanide, these used to stain my fingertips yellow as well. Now I could have used gloves and such, but I found that I wouldn't be able to handle the crystals so delicately, so it was easier to just thoroughly wash my hands after handling them. This one, which is the biggest one I've got, that's how thick it is. It's in real life it's about 1 centimeter thick, and it's about 3-4 centimeters long, and that's its cross section. So it's not been cut, it's not been dropped or anything. This is how it's grown, and it's rather rounded in places, partly due to the fact that it's slightly dissolved if there was any temperature change in the airing cupboard. And also the other reason why it's round is as the crystal got fatter, it got closer to the top of the solution, and as I ran out of chemical, it would evaporate, and of course the top would stop growing, the bottom would carry on, and eventually you ended up with this kind of stepped kind of look. So trying to see if we can do this. So it's got little ripple marks going all the way down, a bit like the marks you get in small landslips. And of course the other side is just the way it is. That's not a fracture, that's just the way it grows. And this is the bottom, and that's why it's shaped like that. Normally they tend to look like this, and I think eventually this would take on a more rectangular sort of shape, and it would have that sort of cross section. Okay, so let's see if we can find a nice example. Here's a tiny one, and so that's kind of how they all wanted to end up, and that's what they would have done if I'd have left them alone. But I wanted variation, so I had a tendency to pull them out while they were still sort of slightly diamond or slightly hexagonal in shape. Just like in the previous video, I put one on my Lego torch, and I'm going to turn the lights down and switch it on, so as you can see the light shining through these things. They have a slight iridescent kind of look to them. That's not the varnish. The varnish is a transparent varnish. It's not yellowed, it's always been this way. That is the way these things shine anyway. So anyway, I'm going to turn the lights down and then switch my torch on. Now it kind of looks yellow on my camera, but in fact, if I can get it dark, it's out of focus, I know, but I'm trying to get the colour. It's actually in real life not yellow, but it's a sort of an orangey red colour. See it there, it's a bit better. It's as best as I'm going to get. If I see and put some light on, slightly better. What I'm trying to do is that's a little more like it, although you can't see so much of the light but coming through the crystal. But the point I'm trying to make is it's an orangey red sort of light, a bit like how the old street lights used to be before they changed them to LEDs. So it's another small video, basically documenting my old crystal collection. Sorry for the feet in the background. I'm using an old cutting board to do this video on. It saves me getting my bed out and doing it that way. So anyway, it's just another video to document my crystal collecting from back in the old days, so that I can share this out there with other people that like growing crystals. So anyway, thank you for watching. Bye.